Do you know how dangerous it is to provoke a bee? Seeing Donald Duck properly geared up, the bee actually pulled out a cactus spine and strapped it onto itself. And then, just like shooting an arrow, it launched itself forward. All of this happened because the greedy Donald Duck had stolen some honey. Watching this, the bee was furious, but it still considered letting it go. Just then, Donald Duck suddenly had a brilliant idea. If you add a flower to a bee, doesn't that make a beehive? That way, he could get some honey. The thought excited him immensely, and he immediately set his plan in motion. On the way, he placed an ink pad to track the location of the hive. Donald Duck was thrilled, and he picked up a magnifying glass to follow the footprints. But suddenly, his eyes went blurry. It turned out that the bee had drawn a circle. The bee was extremely proud of itself, and it even walked on stilts to continue its path. However, Donald Duck didn't give up. This time, he cut a sticky paper shaped like a flower, tied it with a thin string, and placed it in the flower's center. When the bee returned, he replaced the real flower with the fake one. Sure enough, the bee got stuck. Excited, Donald Duck grabbed the string and moved forward, only to see the string caught on a tree branch. The bee had cut the branch and left the string hanging, waiting for the duck to climb up. The bee happily continued collecting nectar, but it never expected that, because of this accident, Donald Duck would discover the real beehive. Donald Duck was ecstatic. He grabbed several jars and emptied all the honey in seconds. Meanwhile, the bee was about to store the nectar, but when it poured it in, all it heard was the sound of an empty jar. It peeked inside and found nothing. The bee was furious. It flew straight at Donald Duck. Donald Duck quickly grabbed a vase to defend himself. The bee tried to stop in time, but it was too late. Seeing Donald Duck's smug expression, the bee got even angrier. It pulled out the stinger with force, then took another cactus spine, strapped it onto itself, and shot it at Donald Duck. Donald Duck was terrified and ran for his life, but the bee had no intention of letting him escape. It aimed and fired again, piercing Donald Duck's hat into a beehive shape. Donald Duck panicked completely. Terrified, he raised a white flag in surrender and hurriedly returned all the honey. Seeing his surrender, the bee finally stopped attacking. However, Donald Duck had actually hidden one more jar of honey. The bee threw its pointed spine. Donald Duck realized he had been found out and started complaining. The bee was just pretending to chase him, and Donald Duck had been scared enough to run away.